Every seed tells a story of the land, the people, and the resilience that sustains life. In Ghana and across Africa, many traditional crops, once the backbone of rural food systems, are slowly disappearing. But here at the Crops Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, a new story is unfolding. So I find myself in what I would say was a long time I saw these kind of crops. I'm talking about menkin in our local parlance, and also cocoyam, or cocoa as they would call it. In fact, it's been ages I saw some of these crops growing in the backyards. When I was young, I saw them in my house, but unfortunately these days they are no longer available in our backyard and even on the farms. But today on the food chain, we are discussing the neglected crops or underutilized crops, also known as the minor crops, for today's discussion. In fact, we have a whole stock of researchers who are on this particular project. I am talking about the Embrace project that is being conducted by researchers here at the Crops Research Institute for the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, and we interact with them on how we can preserve some of these crops, and this is the demonstration site. Scientists here call this place the Living Museum of Minor Crops. They say it is a sanctuary where endangered and forgotten crops are being rediscovered, conserved and reintroduced into food systems for future generations. Across many communities in the country, some crops that were commonly found on the farms and even in the backyards of homes are no longer available. But scientists are bringing these neglected and underutilized crops back to life under the engaging local communities in endangered trees and minor crops utilization for biodiversity conservation and livelihood enrichment project, Embrace. Dr. Clement Opompepra is a principal investigator.
The word embrace in our local parlance simply means, as we say, a two, hugging each other. So the whole concept is that we are bringing together people of diverse identity, people of diverse backgrounds, so that all of us in a single effort can conserve the biodiversity that nature blessed us with. So in terms of this biodiversity that we are talking about, our main focus is on marginalized crops or underutilized crops, as well as some endangered tree species that we have in our biodiversity system. Because the trend we realize is that over the years, if you take, let's say, the last 2 decades, we've been losing quite a large number of our reserved areas, our forest areas, even croplands. We are losing a lot of them due to different human activities. You can talk of the menace of calamity. You can also talk of, the menace of human expansion for settlements and other things. And all these things are putting pressure on the main resource, which is the land resource, and also as well as the vegetation resource that we also have around. Yes. So what the project is simply about is that we, through this simple initiative, we are trying to put together communities again, try to sensitize them on the need to conserve some of these crops and even trees, so that not just for current use but also for posterity, so that we don't necessarily lose them out of the system. And by so doing, we believe that it is our simple way of also contributing to climate change mitigation and also having resilient systems in the country.
At least 50 crop species ranging from tubers to vegetables and leguminous crops are being cultivated in this garden.
As an institute, we've been developing a lot of varieties, improved varieties. From various for various commodities like rice, cowpea, potato, and all the rest. If you read the article, if you search the literature, you see that a lot has been done, in those areas from crop research. But then we also thought that, okay, probably, yes, it's good that we push out some of these, improved varieties to them. But then why don't we also sort of reintroduce some of these things that we already had in the system, because we believe that when you talk of resilience, they are so much resilient in the system because they have been thriving already in the land, and then they have studied the climate, the nature of the environment they are growing in. So if we are to tackle the issue of climate change and those things, it would be better to rather go to the natives rather than, you know, just always looking at how best we can improve those other things. Yeah. So I think that was the motivation that drove myself as well as the team to put together, this idea.
The Living Museum began with seed collections from farmers across 15 communities in Ghana, spanning the Ashanti, Ahafo, Western North and Eastern regions. From house to house, farm to farm, the scientists requested farmers to share their seeds, story and traditional knowledge. Dr. Hilary Mirku-Bote is the seed scientist on the project.
This is a community participatory work. So we will ask the farmers in whichever community that we go, give us the top 5 of materials that your forefathers used to grow, which now is not common. For those that are very familiar with rural farming, at first when they trash and burn the farms as we know it, most of these crops will sprout naturally. But because of the use of herbicides and herbicides, agrochemicals and other things, these things are unable to sprout again, and so they don't have access to these materials. So that is how we ask the farmers, and they will tell us, then give us some of the seeds that they've managed to keep from generations. So some of the farmers have really kept these things. Wow. And it'll be interesting to know that some of these local crops are even named after the farmers who have peculiar protection.
That is, you name them? Like
no,
that?
they name them.
Okay.
So for instance, you have a yam crop that we call Antokode, and that is Openyanto, one of the villages where we visited. That is the name that he has given to that crop. And we also have another one we call Agrima, and that also collected from this unique farmer who is a village elder who has taken upon himself to maintain some of these indigenous local, because from his understanding and perspective, which we also know to be true, because of the climate change effect with the dryness, you see these locals are still thriving well.
We are in the midst of vegetables. I want to know what are the varieties we are having here.
Okay, yeah, so from here in the vegetable garden, I will even add maybe the cowpea as part of vegetables. So in the northern, some eat the leaves. Okay. And so cowpea leaves. So we have some cowpea, and this is unique. It is black. For most of the varieties that we have, we've not seen this one in any of the black beans. So
I think I've not seen one before.
Yeah, it's black cowpea. So it's not the beans eaten by the yams.
Can we
and
eat
also
gobe?
we hope so. Eventually we will try their utilization as well. From the farmers, they also cook the same way we cook the cowpeas or the beans and use it. This is a cherry tomato. That is how the nature is. They are small. We just add to salads and eat them. But most of the ones that we currently eat are imported. So if you see a cherry tomato grown in a greenhouse, it's imported. So hopefully with this, Ajuade, they're coming back, which is our cherry tomato, climate adapted, resistant. We may also promote this to be added to our salads and our dishes. And that is going to be...
I'm sure it's sweet.
It's sweet too. That is why we call it Ajuade. In fact, when I was young, you would just grind this one with some banchi and PC or whatever, and you are good to go. Most Ghanaians also enjoy a lot of akatua and rare soup or stew. Yeah, so we also got some for you. So we are going to harvest, extract the seeds, and multiply them. We also have rare here. So that's how the rare looks like. The seeds are in the pods. So when they are fully matured, it becomes quite big. Then we extract the seeds. Another one we call akato, snake tomato. Currently, some students are even researching as an alternative to tomato. So in the villages, some of them, when they don't have tomato, the scarcity of tomato, this ripen, it becomes reddish. The interior is also red. So they use it as a substitute for tomato. So this is common in some villages, especially in the Western North area and some parts of Ashanti region.
10 yam species are also being grown on this field.
So what we have here is water yam. Typically, the local isumnishen is colored So part of it is a bit light color and then a darker part. So that's why we call it a sumnishing. In here we have more than 10 accessions of yams. We have the apoka, we have nkamfo, we have a fumbaye, the cayensis are also there. We have kukwasibayere and all that. So a number of them. We collected them from 3 regions in Ghana.
Okay.
From the Western North region, Ahafo region, and then the Ashanti region.
If they should go extinct, what kind of crop have we lost?
Yeah, so if they get extinct, we lose diversity. Now let me dwell much on the importance of the crops. So like you indicated, the nkamfo and then the kukwasibayere, apart from they being traditional carbohydrate or tuber crops, they are also medicinal crops. So for instance, the kukwasibayere, the nkamfo, what typical farmers, the indigenous people do is that the roots, they boil the roots and able to use it as treatment for jaundice, for malaria, especially the nkamfo.
This is the legume section, and this is what we had from the farmers. We had duekuma, we had pigeon pea. The local name is Edua. And then we have bambara granite, aboboye. Basically, this is what we have. We also have a duapia behind me. We have a whole lot. And these are very important because these are legumes. Legumes are very important in cropping systems. You integrate them, it helps you to reduce your fertilizer inputs, especially N. You are able to take advantage of atmospheric nitrogen fixation. So it's very important to include them. So for example, this indigenous Edua pigeon pea, very important because it's very climate resilient. The roots are deep and it helps to withstand drought. Even where other crops are not doing well, this crop pigeon pea will do well because the roots are deeper. And what makes it unique is that the nitrogen content of the grains are about 26% higher than the other legumes like cowpea, granite, and then also bambara granite. So it makes it unique. So for example, and especially the women that's the indigenous cropping, I mean, they normally grow this. So once they have it, they bring it to the house, they add it to their food, and it's able to improve the protein content of the whole household. So it's not only fixing nitrogen in the soil, it's also a nutrition security to the home. So let's assume there is no money for fish or any meat. Once the woman gets this few of them into the soup or into the stew, it improves the protein content, and that is good for the kids' growth and also good for the general well-being of the household. The market wants cowpea, right, and soybean. So they do more of that and leave this vital crop. I'm not saying cowpea and soybean are not good. They are good. They have their niche. But this one, its vital niche is that it has deeper roots. So it's able to withstand drought. So when you put it in the cropping system, it gives you some resilience in the cropping system. So gradually, because the market doesn't want it, it's going away. And the time comes, we lose it.
Growing urbanization and other human-induced activities like illegal mining are endangering these local staples. Climate change is also not sparing these crops, but scientists are convinced the crops better withstand the changing climate.
Yeah, so two things. Yes, one, climate change is a big issue, and also human factors. The human factor I told you is the illegal mining, that is clearing land haphazardly without any limit, and that is threatening them. So for instance, you could see at first in our cocoa farms, that is where most of kukwasibayere will thrive. We don't intentionally plant these ones, but now they are no more because these cocoa fields are being mined for all these things. So the human factor and also expanding our residential area from where I come from, Fuansi in the Achuma area, where we used to farm, walk about 2 hours to the field, is now residential area. So that human factor is there. But of course, also at climate change, like I mentioned, a lot of heat, the temperature is rising, a lot of flooding when it comes. But one good thing, and for which reason Embrace decided to keep this, is that regardless of the current phenomenon we are experiencing with climate change, these ones are thriving. I mentioned we have not sprayed against any pesticides or insecticides, but they are doing well. We've not observed any serious damage in terms of pest attack, but they are doing well. In terms of drought, it received very minimal rain at the beginning and when the rain came in. So in terms of climate change, we are better off trying with our indigenous and local materials compared to some of the improved or imported materials that's coming. So they have a better chance of helping us address the issues of climate change if we take good care of them and understand them better.
These plants also have the potential to protect the soils they grow in. Dr. Jeanette Eduhene Chenbua is a co-principal investigator on the Embrace project.
They don't take up a lot of nutrients from the soil. So once you plant them, it means that they are not heavy feeders. So we are able to preserve our soil nutrients to an extent. But when you look at other crops such as maize and rice, then it means you have to always replenish the fertilizers to be able to, because they are heavy feeders, we call them. And also they are deep-rooted. And then for some they are shallow-rooted, so their root systems vary. So it means that they are taking up of nutrients vary. So you don't get all of the soil depleting at once. And then we have varieties like Edua Kuma, Edua Apia, we have the Pigeon Pea. They're also nitrogen fixing. So it's not only about taking up the nitrogen, it's also putting back nitrogen into the soil. So those are the ways they also help. And you realize that as you came into this field, they are leaf spread. So it covers the soil. So we have principles where conserving the soil, preventing soil loss, it keeps the moisture. And then we also have carbon sequestration. Because they cover the soil, the carbon is not lost. So it's recycled into the soil. Most of our acidic soils come from the rains. So we have rainwater, which is acidic. So once we cover the soil surface, it means that we are preventing a lot of the water from seeping into the soil. So then it goes through the right channels and away. Another thing that happens also is that because these are nitrogen fixing, and then they supply nutrients to the soil without adding the inorganic types, it means that we limit the introduction of inorganic fertilizers that cause the acidic soil. If you go and you don't see a minor crop, it's an indicator that the soil is not fertile.
Not only are they resilient to the changing weather, but also diseases. Dr. Atakwisi Edu Sr. is a plant pathologist.
Although there are some traits or qualities that these staple crops, the normal ones that we know, they have, but for the minor crops, most of them, they have medicinal traits, like they help us in our health as compared to the normal crops that we have. So this Inkamfo, Diokuma and all that, they are very nutritious, and at the same time, they are also, they have health qualities that when you eat or when you consume, it will help your health.
Professor Maxwell Dakon Asante is the director of the Crops Research Institute.
God put them here for a purpose. Okay, so in the era of climate change, these are the crops that easily survive. If you lose this diversity, you are dead. So let me give you an example. So if for instance, there is a disease outbreak, and all your varieties in the field. Let me use my own rice. If all the modern varieties we have developed, Agra rice, Japa, there's a disease that begins to wipe them out. You lose all of it in the field. But you could find some of the old varieties that will withstand that disease. And God has made it that way. Okay. So that in those times, you can easily go back as a breeder to grow that variety on its own, or if it's not that productive, there's always a gene that helps it to resist that disease. You can move it into your modern variety. So if we lose the useful genes that are in here, we are threatened as humans.
At least 25 communities in both Ghana and Kenya are to benefit from the project, with over 25 hectares of degraded lands to be reclaimed.
That is where one of our partners, which is the CSR Forestry Research Institute of Ghana, comes in. Yes, I think just about a month ago, we actually went on a survey with them. You know, they have been working on these trees, so they know the hotspots for endangered species around the country. So we actually went around some of these hotspots areas in the eastern, for western and Ashanti region to try to harvest some of the seeds which are currently being propagated at their nursery to be reintroduced back into the system. Yes, so in all this, of course, a lot has been written about in literature, but we also wanted to understand from the farmers themselves what they see, how they feel about these resources. Yes, so we went to them severally, asking them which of the trees that they think is going to an extent in their environment and all that. And then when we compared that with what we have in literature, then we settled on certain species, so like Oframo, like Wawa, like mahogany, like even rosewood. Yes, those are some of the trees that the communities themselves feel that they are gradually going extinct. They are being taken over by other invasive species. They are gradually going extinct in their environment. Yes, so that is what we're trying to work on. So as I'm speaking to you now, we've already started with some 3 pilot communities whereby we have established the agroforestry farmsteads. Yes, and then what we also did was that with the type of agroforestry system that we want to build in every community, we co-designed it with the community. So when you go to the project communities, you find out that you see different species of, let's say, the crops and then also the trees growing in different environments. And this is all to just gather, give to the community what they actually want. Not that we've just prepared something that we are introducing it to them.
1,250 households across both countries are expected to leverage the benefits of the project. Yapokua leads the gender component of the project.
Interestingly, when we went into the communities to scout for these minor crops, most of them were with women. Women are the custodians of minor crops.
Wow.
They keep them with
Not
them.
the men.
No, because they are in the kitchen. They are cooking. They need this for food, for nutrition. They use this to breastfeed. And so most of the minor crops were with the women. When you go to the market, the women are there selling. So things that you would usually not find in the communities, the women have it with them in their space. So it is very important that we include women when it comes to implementing projects like this. Again, also, if we add on women to it, because they are custodians of some of these very endangered crops and trees, what happens is that their livelihoods are improved, and this helps them to feel a part of the process, and they help in protecting this and transferring the knowledge to the kids, because most of the kids growing up are with the women. So when they share the knowledge with them, they also feel proud, and they help conserve our culture for us.
How does this project intend to support the women?
So as part of the project, activities that we are implementing are women tailored towards women. So when we go and we are having activities, we ensure that there is a certain component that women will be interested in. So for example, if we go into the community and we are having a training program, we ensure that there is a part that women would have to play, and there will be portions that women would have to share their ideas, to give in their inputs. So we get there, and most of the women are waiting for us to share their knowledge with us to ensure that their ideas are brought on board in formulating and implementing these projects with them.
So it's not just about going to plan something for the community, but then we also want it to be part of like a larger educational resource that we are building out there. This that you see right here is one of such initiatives. There are a lot of young folks who are coming up today that may have heard or may have read about in literature, but may not have had first-hand experience of some of these things. Yes. So the vision is also that we are not just working around food security, but if I'm right to say, we are also working around cultural security as well. We don't want to lose touch with nature. We don't want to lose touch with what God naturally blessed us with.
So with all these benefits from the neglected crops or the underutilized crops, talk of their nutritional benefits and also environmental benefits, it tells the need for us as a country to conserve and also preserve them for our use and also posterity. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion here on the food chain. Join me same time next week for another exciting episode. My name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.